awkward about participating. I think that's important for all of us. So let's go ahead and dive in, get through the notices and get to, this has been your journey so far. So this Ignite class used to be 12 sessions. And then a couple of years ago, they updated it into 20 different sections. And I think it's come a long way from what it used to be. So there's a couple of you who haven't, I think, attended most of these, right? Or a few of these. Okay, no worries. So I think we're trying to do these a little bit more frequently. So this is where we are. You're getting close to the end, which is a good thing. Today's agenda really is, we want to talk about a process that you should try and follow for a couple different reasons when it comes to working with sellers. For those of you who took the negotiating class from me, there's a concept in negotiation called power. And what the power means is whether you're in a seller's market or a buyer's market, right? And so sometimes that's hard to determine. You could actually be in a buyer's market, but the seller might still think they're in a seller's market, or vice versa, right? So you're going to hear things from people all the time, but it's up to us to kind of stay true to a certain amount of process or a certain style to help us better qualify people, especially their levels of motivation. So we are going to spend time talking about what Keller Williams describes as an A-list seller. So someone who qualifies as an A seller is someone who is typically motivated enough to want to move. Usually the conversations that you're having with that person involve their time frame, their pricing expectations. All of these things are a critical component for you to be successful. So believe it or not, whether you're working with buyers or sellers, it's a two-way street. One of the greatest advantages you can have as a real estate professional is confidence. And so it takes time and experience, and I know you guys get a lot of things thrown at you, but I want you to, I truly want you to understand how important confidence is, because the more confident you are about what should or shouldn't be happening in the next step, the easier it is to handle or manage sometimes both buyer and seller expectations. So A sellers are great because they're the most motivated. Can you guys tell me what would be some characteristics of a motivated seller? Describe a couple characteristics. Some things they might say, some things they might be doing that would lead you to believe they're motivated.
Maybe somebody that's relocated.
Sure.
Stuff sold to get out.
So you're on the right path, but it's when are they relocating? So if I have 3 years until I relocate,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not as motivated as I gotta be there in 30 days. That's an example. So be real specific, because sellers typically don't pay you like a buyer upfront, do they? So with a buyer, worst case scenario, you're driving me around and you're wasting your own gas and time. With a seller, you're not necessarily doing that. Why is that?
Because it's already in one place.
No, because you're gonna spend money for photos and maybe staging and cleaning. You're gonna have an investment. So as a business owner, if you're gonna spend money on somebody expecting a return, would you prefer to work with people who want to get you a quicker return or someone who doesn't? That's simply what we're talking about, right? So when we talk about the A sellers, we're talking about people who have their act together with you. So time frame is important. What are some other signals or signs that a seller is motivated? If you were a seller, what are some things that you would say, yep, I'm definitely ready, Brandon. I don't need the whole dog and pony show. I just want to sign a contract and list my house.
Maybe go through a divorce and just don't want to deal with, just want to get rid of it before court happens or.
Okay. So in
You're
that,
like, get this house sold now, and you're angry about it.
perfect. So let's just play on that. And this is all going to be good as we go through this, because you're gonna, I've been doing this a long time, and I can tell you, no two deals are alike, but the process is the same, right? So let's just say you meet someone who says, hey, I really need to get this house sold because I'm going through a divorce. That sounds great, but what do we really want to know? Is it approved divorce? Is the divorce final? Are they still arguing? Is one of them not gonna want to list the house? You see what I'm saying?
There's a lot of variables, yeah.
There are a lot of variables for us to just consider when someone says, I want to buy or sell. There's more pieces of the puzzle. And so back to the confidence that I was talking about, if the more confident you are in the things that need to happen in order for you to do your job successfully, it's understanding what the other party is responsible for doing, right? So a buyer is someone who's motivated. So motivated looks like, my house is already packed. I already have a mover scheduled. I already have a deposit on the house that I'm moving to. Right? Those are signals that you might have somebody who's more motivated than not. Have you guys ever met anyone in your life, especially when you dated, that weren't the people that you thought they were? Have you ever met someone who didn't tell you the truth? Jackson already saying, nope. I need everybody who's truthful.
He's got a lot.
So I hate to say this, but sometimes you can't believe everything you hear. Is that fair?
Yes.
So the best way for us to work through that is to learn how to ask questions, identify certain things, make sure we're paying attention to things, because A sellers are the greatest sellers to have because they're motivated enough to do the things necessary to get everybody across the finish line. That's what's great about an A-list buyer. So we're talking a little bit about the appointment, why the appointment is extremely important. A pre-listing pack, a listing appointment, a listing agreement. And then we're going to just kind of do some recap along the way. So, and I'm probably going to throw a couple things in there that are, again, just from experience, some of my own opinion of things. While leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and highest net. So, and Jack, I know can relate to this because he's been in sales for a long time. It's hard to sell something if you don't have anything to sell. Is that right, Jack? Yes. Doesn't matter how good a salesperson you are, if you don't have product to sell, it doesn't really matter. Now, for those of you coming into the business in our local market, you could say in general terms that we're in a seller's market because the right product is selling within a couple of weeks of it hitting the market. But there are other pockets in our area that might not be. So there are always things that tie into the variables that you mentioned earlier that are going to create some successes for us. So we definitely need to have seller motivation, but we also have to be realistic about the product that we're going to have the ability to sell. So is it easier to sell something when there's fewer of them, or is it easier to sell something when there's lots of them?
There's fewer.
There's fewer of them, right? So keep that in mind. And then the beauty of real estate at the end of the day is its diversity. You have older homes, newer homes, remodeled homes, not remodeled homes. You have big yards, not big yards. You have, 2-story, 3-story, or single story, different architectural styles. Like that's the beauty of real estate is that it's not necessarily. So can you imagine 3,000 homes that all look the same? Like, how would you price that, right? Anyway, it's just, but it's what I want you to understand is some things might sound like, wow, how is that ever going to happen? When the reality is, it happens, right? But having a good understanding of it goes a long, long way. So for you as a business owner of real estate, if you had all the product, would you have all the business?
Yes.
You would if you had all the product.
The monopoly.
It could be construed like that, right? And that's, in Arizona, when we did big community developments, we took raw land and built 500 homes, right? You were kind of like the only game in town when you had that, right? So it was if you build it, they will come concept. You control it. And so you're going to hear this as you go through this journey and as you develop a real estate career, you're going to hear that getting listings is a significant part of the business. But what I want you to understand is that it's also competitive and there's opportunity and sometimes there's luck involved. But if you don't show up, right, or you're not talking to people, your chances, become a little bit more slim. Right, so keep that in mind. So let's get into A sellers and what really qualifies them a little bit more. So Get Kristen in here. Manage a little of this. So there are things and, oops, my mouse is just gonna go away. There are things that you guys are gonna have access to help you prepare for a listing. So let's just say you met Brandon today. And Brandon says, hey, I'm looking to hire a real estate professional because I need to move to Phoenix and I need to be able to put my house on the market and sell it. And I want to sell it as quickly as possible. How many of you have a good idea? Because, right, if you are kind of talking to people, there's nothing worse, right? You talk to somebody and they say, hey, I'm ready to list my house, and you don't know what to do next. So we're gonna work through this. So what are some things you think you need in order for you to do business with me? What are some tools? What are some resources? What are some things that you should probably be prepared to do? Why is the CMA important?
To be logical for pricing.
There we go.
Convincing.
Absolutely, right? So we have to have some kind of a strategy. And does that strategy tie into maybe their level of motivation? What else do we need to have ready?
I believe the profile, unfortunately, that there is no.
Maybe that's part of it. I mean, sometimes. What are some tools?
The testimonies, the sales, and tools.
You need a sign, you need a lockbox,
Yeah, of course. I mean.
you need a camera,
Forms.
you need a photographer, you need a photographer, right? And so when we think about how we're gonna start building our business on the moment, marketing plan, the moment comes.
Marketing plan.
Yeah, what is your marketing plan? Why should I hire you? And it sounds like a lot, and it is to a certain degree, but the more you study it, I'm gonna show you that, and maybe I shouldn't show you. This is Tammy's checklist. That's it. So.
Is that for sellers?
We're gonna go through that, yeah. We're gonna go through that with you a little bit today. But the beauty of it is if you can get to this place or borrow or steal someone's checklist and you kind of understand all of the components. This is another reason when you sit down with sellers, say, this is why you hire me. There are a lot of listing agents who meet sellers and they forget what they're supposed to do, or they don't remember something they're supposed to remember. And this is why you get organized. This is why you have these things. You say, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, one of the reasons you're gonna hire me is to make sure nothing falls through the crack. We have a process and a system that follows and guides it, right? So these are things, especially someone who's motivated, they want to hear come out of your mouth, right? They want to understand how we're going to get them across the finish line. All right, the 3 L's. This is right out of the MREA book. You guys are familiar with the MREA book. It stands for the
Millionaire real estate agent.
Okay, millionaire real estate agent. So listings, leverage, and leads. So we really need to start with leads. And a lead has different definitions. So what's the difference between a contact and a lead? This is always a tricky one.
A lead is some one-way conversation, a contact is a two-way conversation.
Typically, you have, once you get to the contact stage, right? So a lead is, I heard someone was wanting to sell their house. That lead we should convert to the contact, which means I've spoken to them and I have permission to continue to speak to them. It doesn't matter if it's personal, email, text, phone call, either way, right? Hopefully we get to this place where converting these leads into listings, because if we have inventory, especially in our market, and it's the right inventory, that increases our chances of success. And then the leverage component. What does leverage mean? When you guys see the word leverage in real estate, what could that mean?
Investment also.
No. Wait, think as a business owner, real estate agent. You're a real estate agent, I own my own business. What does leverage mean to you to get the job done?
Hiring third parties that will help you with photographer.
Third parties, right? So some of that goes back to, right? I have a photographer, I have an inspector, I have, what else?
Transaction coordinator.
Transaction coordinator, what else?
Escrow officer.
Maybe an escrow.
Like strategic partners.
Title, yeah, there you go, right? And that, again, is all on your list of things, hopefully your checklist of things that you're paying attention to. So leverage, and here's what it really means, Jack. So right now, everyone in here, if I said, hey, if I gave you one really good seller lead, would you guys be excited about that? I gave each of you one lead. That would be cool, right?
Yeah.
would you have to start work right away?
Yes,
So we're kind of gathering a good sense of, okay, Brandon just gave me someone who wants to sell. So I don't know everything yet, but if I have a checklist to follow, right, I'm gonna know the things I need to do to get the house ready on the market. Then I have you guys ever managed people? Like your kids, your significant other, or your family, like that's fun, right? Managing, right? So think about this. You have a seller who's motivated, they wanna sell, you got the listing,
Start talking to the staging company.
now we're figuring out how we're gonna get it marketed. You get it on the MLS, our agent's calling you, our buyers, like, think about the work involved. Are you guys with me? So your first listing, although that was gonna be amazing and there's work to be done, it's gonna teach you a lot. What leverage means though is, I didn't give you one seller lead. I just gave you 5. I gave you 5 right now. What happens? How do you prioritize? Who do you do next? How do you manage your business? And that's what leverage means in the context of what we're teaching. So yes, we have to talk to people. They need to understand we're in real estate. We're professionals. We can help them sell their properties, which is the listing side of it. But how do you get across the finish line? And more importantly, how do you make it a great customer experience? So that you get referral business, that you get repeat business. So it's not even just the leverage in your time and the vendors and your partners. It's their ability to do the same thing on your behalf. Right? Have you guys ever done business with someone you really like and they referred you to somebody who's just stuck? And is that a reflection on that person? This is the business that you're in. So it takes a little time, but that's the opportunity. And there's work to be had and it's good. It's fun. I love it. I love working with sellers.
so, Brandon, if I'm understanding this triangle, does it go counterclockwise?
It
or
starts
is
at the
there-
bottom and goes clockwise.
It goes clockwise.
This is your foundation.
Okay.
Yeah, so our foundation is.
It goes like that. It
Huh?
goes like this.
So it
It
goes
goes
clockwise.
listings, it goes listings
Uh-huh.
and leverage.
Yeah. It would be the same concept if I said, hey, Maureen, here's 5 buyers. They all want to go see houses on Saturday. What do you do? How do you show 5 different people housing at the same time?
And we can say leads, contacts. The second one, contract. The third one, workshop.
There you go. You could say it that way.
Workshop, leverage is like workshop.
Sure, absolutely. So there's power, and again, what the reason I'm wanting you to understand this is sometimes, and this is just, Western society. Western society is take a class, learn these things, right? And you start formulating a plan, and some of us that are organized might have a better way of doing that, and some of us who are disorganized like myself can really find a benefit and leverage because I'm not so organized, right? So the idea is, as I'm going through this madness to a certain degree, I just need to remember that it's okay to ask for help. I have a mentor, I have a productivity coach, I have a broker, right? You have other great people in the office that you can lean on. So hopefully you don't ever feel like you're on your own, even though you were told you were an independent contractor, okay? There's a lot of things you're told. Okay. Couple schools of thought here. Obviously marketing opportunities. Now, I'm going to give you just some food for thought because there are some things in this industry that I truly feel are changing significantly. And there are things that I want you to just kind of realize that the big picture, the big brother stuff that you guys get in marketing, remember, you get great ideas for marketing your listing, but I want you to consider the true opportunity, especially when things aren't as frequent. And here's what I mean by that. So you have a great marketing opportunity. And Jack, I'm going to go back because I'm going to ask you this question. I know. So if I have a great marketing opportunity, which is a listing, what would you really like to get out of that listing outside of you getting it sold and making a commission? Would you like any more business? More leads? So what we're talking about here, and number one, oops, I'm going wrong. I'm sorry. What we're talking about here is what is the true marketing opportunity? And here's an example of what I feel is the wrong way to do it. So would you guys be excited that you got that seller lead and you got the listing agreement signed and you've scheduled photography and you're ready to go to market? That's exciting stuff, right? Most agents get their flyer and their social media and they say just listed. And what else does it say?
You mean the channels where I do?
Whatever, the channel, or so, let's pretend you're doing a social post today. You just listed a property, it says just listed, and you have a great photo at the front of the house. What else does your just listing say on it? Maybe,
Contact me for the price or.
okay, what else does it say?
Description of what you got.
Okay. The most common thing is the address and the price and the bedrooms. If I just gave you all the information, why do you need to call me? Are you with me?
Unless you buy.
I just want you to think about how important it is for you to grow your business. So if you look at the top teams, you'll notice that they do certain things to put themselves in a better position for future business with that listing. So just, again, it's exciting. Tammy and I go through this all the time. You know, she gets excited, but we've been doing this a long time, and that's what we were told. Right, this is what you do, this is how you do it, right? So I just want you to consider when we're talking about marketing opportunities, leverage the heck out of it. Do you have more control of your time? This goes back to, do you have a system in place? Right? This is why we have showing time. This is why we have lock boxes. This is why we put instructions maybe in the MLS that say no showings until Saturday from 1 to 4. Right? Because if we go back to that, how do I manage the 5 leads Brandon just got me? It's all about a system. It's all about having a good understanding of how you manage that time and in comparison to what you have business wise. So regardless of if I got you your first listing for a seller, you still should have 2 or 3 hours a day of continuously lead generating. Just because you got excited to get your first listing doesn't mean you stop working. Okay, so keep that in mind. Seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. That is true. Now, there are some interesting statistics out there nationally. On average, a buyer's agent works approximately 87 hours with one buyer. That could be over 6 months, it could be in 6 days, whatever. But that's on average. So what do you think it is for the sellers? Average time spent with a seller.
Maybe half is that?
It's about half, yeah, it's about 43 hours. So there is truth in that. So maximizing your time can mean a lot of things, whether it's spending family time or not. Volume. Here's another interesting perspective. You guys have heard, and I don't know if we've done a business planning clinic yet. So if you see awards that real estate agents get, if you see or have conversations with most real estate agents, there's 3 things that we pay attention to. The volume of sales, the units we sold, and our gross commission income. It's called GCI. These are the 3 kind of languages of real estate. What I would like you to take a note of and remember is the volume, which would be the sales price. So if I sold 3 $1 million homes, that's $3 million of volume, which is what I get paid on. So if I had $3 million of sales and I made 2% of that, how much money did I earn?
60,000, 90,000. Wait,
60,000. So 60,000 would be my GCI and my 3 sales would be my units. Volume is the money you make. So just think of it this way. Volume is my income. Units is your workload. So if I sold 3 $1 million homes, I sold $3 million in volume and I made $60,000 in GCI. Now, if I had a new student for my investor class. He's in a upstate New York community. His average sales price is $200,000. So if he wanted to make the same GCI, $200,000 to get to $3 million total volume, how many sales is that?
11, 12,
15.
15.
So he had to sell 15 homes to your 3 to make the same amount of money, but his workload is what? More. So just remember those 2 things. Volume is how I get paid. That's in direct relation to the income that I'm going to make, which is why we're worried about the volume. right? And that amount that you're selling, as well as your workload.
That's why people, they work in luxury.
That's why
You
people,
sell one
yeah.
house with 10 million.
I remember when I interviewed a new recruit a couple years ago, and I asked him, what farm does he want to work, right? I mean, this 21-year-old, if you can visualize a 21-year-old clean cut kid. I said, what's your farm area gonna be? He said the Strand. And I was, wow, okay, wow, that was my inside voice. I was like, great, I mean, there's nothing wrong with aspiration, but right?
By the way, everybody thinks like that when you're 29.
I still do, yeah. Okay, so that's a little of that. So I just wanted to give you some perspective when it came to the words that you want to hear. You're going to see this at the awards. If you go to the awards ceremony or banquet that we do every year. So volume, units, and GCI is kind of what our goal should be, right? So it's not only that everyone wants to get into luxury jackets, it's some people are very envious of you. Right, people in Texas or Nevada or Arizona whose average price point is $500,000 a day. They're like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about your problems in California. Right?
That everybody that comes from out of town says, you say you're in real estate, they're like, that must be great.
Right.
$5 million properties must be great.
So I know that's a little hard to see, and I think I can hide this somehow. Can I hide that? So lead conversion, we have pre-listings, the listing consultation, servicing and marketing, offers, negotiations, and contract close, and then our post-close systems. So it's really, again, if you're somewhat organized, it's a pretty easy system to follow. If you're more of an extrovert and you have no problem talking to people and grabbing the mic and doing all those things, you typically aren't organized and you're flying by the seat of your pants. So marry someone like I married, Tammy. She helps me out. That's it. All right, I'm gonna move this. I thought there was a way to hide that. All right. What did we learn about sellers? Any ahas? Or anything from that last little section there?
We should live in California.
I should live in California. Yep, amen to that. What else?
Get back to your leads immediately.
Yeah, don't stop. One of the hardest things to do is get out of your routine for talking to people, right? So I work with investors, and it's a morning ritual for me when I get my coffee. I'm on the MLS looking all the time, and by 8:30 I'm done. I know what's out there new, what's back on the market, and what's closed. I have a good sense of what's happening before I even get to work.
For a certain criteria, right?
Sure.
Then you cannot check all market.
Well, but if you're working a certain farm, then that's an example of how you work that farm, right? Is having some type of. Jack, I have sometimes my ego is a little high.
California.
It's okay. But what humbles me is when I finally get an opportunity, for whatever reason, I randomly meet somebody who wants to sell their house, and they know more than I do. It's not a real fun feeling to be the professional that somebody else knows more than you. Then there's the people who think they know more than you. That's a whole different conversation. Okay. Right. So how do we get the appointment? This is again something that you have to work at, and it's part of building the confidence in you. One of the best things I think you guys could do, I know it's done twice a year. I don't think it's done any more frequent than that. And that's paying attention to the National Association of Realtors survey of home buyers and sellers. Do you think you would be a better salesperson if you knew more about your clientele? Right? So one of the challenges that I see in real estate sometimes is back to my little comment about I get up in the morning and I run comps. That can also be dangerous because all I'm doing is focused on my perception. But I'm not selling me anything, right? I have to cater to the consumer. So it's always important to have a good gauge of what this is. And this is that balance. And I'm telling you right now, if you read these surveys, that's the #1 headache for people who inquire about buying or selling real estate. It's in the 80th percentile, close probably to 88%, at least less. That the number one complaints about real estate agents is they never answer the phone and they never follow up. So keep that in mind. You are at an advantage when you pick up your phone. So responding right away. Getting valid and complete contact information. We'll get into the technology part of it in a little bit. But it's a technique. It's as simple as saying, you know what, it's been really nice speaking with you, Yuki. I would really love to stay in contact with you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Would you prefer a text, a phone call, or email? Awesome. Do you mind if I shoot you a quick text to verify?
Now I'm in the stage that I'm calling, they're not me.
Well, I get it. And that's, you know, the reverse. But that's timing. It goes back to timing, right? So get really good at whatever routine it is that you want. And I want you to recognize the other thing that I did do with Yuki is I didn't let go of her hand until I had permission. So there are little techniques that can be powerful. But back to the trust. You're told to build rapport and build relationships, but when you first meet someone for the first time, you don't have trust and rapport. So to be fair, you have to kind of qualify what that is. So here's a couple other nuggets. Ask for the business card. You have a business card. If you've ever done an open house, and I've done plenty, it's very common for, and especially now with new changes, there's a sign-in or a registration. Not everybody puts their real name, phone number, and email, folks.
Yeah.
Right? So just because they do it, right? I always put other people's names and numbers on. So you have to find a way that it's in your routine, right? To be able to check open houses. We don't print flyers. Our flyer is digital. You have a flyer, Branden? I do. What's your phone number, and I'll send it to you right. Okay. Guess what I have? I have their real phone number. So just little things like that go a long way. So back to the difference between me and hopefully some of you is I'm good at getting contact information, but I'm not necessarily always good at putting it in my CRM. So what do I have? Leverage. Someone I dump all my stuff to, and they put it in the system for me, right? Because that's not one of my strong suits. Determining their motivation. Remember, where are you in the date? If I just met you and I don't really have trust and rapport, I can listen to what they're saying. They might not even want to answer some of my questions if they feel like I'm interrogating them, right? And how do I really determine someone's motivation? Well, it's up to you to maybe ask the right questions, right? So what are some questions you would ask to find out how motivated I might be to sell my home?
What's your timeline for selling your home?
Okay, nice simple one.
What's the reason? Why are you looking to move?
Love it. What else?
What did you like about this? What did you like? What did you didn't like?
It could be good or bad, right? Because if they really love it, now you're just talking about selling.
Mentioned that,
I'm gonna get to know their hobbies, so you know what they're looking for.
Maybe.
Their clicks.
Maybe. But we're trying to sell their home. Keep that in mind. What's wrong with just saying, well, what happens if you don't sell your house? So sometimes you guys are good at qualifying. I've gotten better at disqualifying. I would rather get to it sooner than later. So my questions are a little different than yours. It's okay, right? What we're trying to determine is, are they sincere? Does it matter? And do you know enough about the next steps? Because I think you were on the right path. Really, it's like, oh, have you found the house you're moving to yet? Would be a great question, right? Because if they haven't found the house they're moving to, are they less motivated to sell their current home?
Yes.
Probably. So it doesn't mean they're a bad lead. It doesn't mean that they don't want to sell. I just know from experience, you guys tell me, would you sell your house today if you didn't know where you're moving tomorrow? Probably not, but it doesn't mean you don't want to sell it, right? So that changes the dynamic sometimes in the conversation and what that is. So motivation is big. I would never necessarily, I shouldn't say never. One of the questions I think that the consumer has caught up with is, what's your motivation? I think if you just say, what's your motivation, is not a good quality question personally, but that's what we're trying to figure out, is how quickly do they need to get to where they're going? Setting appointment date and time. So again, I know this is exciting, I know this is great, I know that you could be standing in Starbucks and you finally hear somebody talking about real estate, you turn around and introduce yourself, and they're like, yeah, I want to sell my house. And then what do? You spend the next half hour talking to them about all of these great things, when there's a reality to what you could really need to be doing. And that's what we're talking about here at number 4 is, I have a house over on Avenue H, about 3,000 square feet. What do you think it's worth?
You can talk a little more than that. How much bedroom was it?
But we need to know more. That's where I want you to get to, because you're naturally gonna wanna feel like, oh my gosh, I gotta give them a price right now, and maybe they'll
Let
sign
me
it.
visit your place. Let me see.
Listen, that's great, right? I mean, what are interest rates today, guys?
Five,
Six,
No,
5.56.
You don't have that information. They're between 1% and 20%. That's what rates are, between 1% and 20%. There's so many factors that go into it, just like what's my house worth? Your house is worth between $500 and 15 million on Avenue H, but I need to know more. Is that fair? So like, don't ever be able to say, listen, I would love to get you some information, but I'm in a little bit of an awkward position because I don't know enough about your property. Is that fair? Nobody's gonna argue with you there. So sometimes we get excited. There's nothing like, I'm just telling you, sometimes we shoot ourselves in our own foot because we get too excited and we don't have enough information. So that goes back to the confidence talking about. So what has helped me in the past become an amazing real estate agent is by not having this conversation with you right here and now. But if you're genuinely interested in selling your home, which I think I can help you do, what serves me in my past clients really well is when I come see the property. So I get a good understanding of its location, its condition, all of the fine things that you've enjoyed about your home for the last 15 years. So what does number 4 say? So however your personality and character dictates the next step. Can I come by Thursday afternoon? Can I come by Saturday afternoon? If I told you that I love NFL football, would you try and set a time for me or with me on Sunday or Thursday night or Monday night?
No.
You would not. Those are the little nuggets, right, along the way. Anyway, I'm just being a little goofy. So now what do I need to know is, if Thursday evening sounds great for you, would you like me to send some information ahead of time? Or would you prefer to review it together while I'm there? So, and again, there's no right or wrong in any of this, there's no judgment, you'll get a feel. But I genuinely think if you're asking good questions and understand that the next step can't happen unless this happens, it will help you along the way, right? Don't ever not try and get the appointment though. Always ask. Now, if I were to tell you that that day doesn't work and that day doesn't work, and I don't know if those dates work, what am I telling you? What's number 3? See, sometimes when you meet people and they find out in your real estate, they're just saying things, but they're not genuinely sincere about it because they just don't know what else to talk to you about. So you have to learn how to have patience and realize it's a very rare circumstance that you met me in Starbucks and I literally need to sign and sell my house tomorrow. Very rare, right? Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but I'm just simply saying there are things that have to happen. So if you're intentional about it, my business plan says, I can't help you the best of my ability unless I see your property. Is that fair? Right? Because there's nothing worse than it's $3.5 million on Avenue H on average, and then you get there and it's 926 square foot, 1-bedroom bungalow that's been there since 1923. So foot in mouth, right? Okay, so setting it up.
Around 900,000.
I meant pesos. I meant 3.5 million pesos, Jack.
The last one, sending pre-listing packet.
Mhm.
In
how many of you have a pre-listing package?
Why sending? I mean, it's not going to.
It's a great
It's more
question.
controllable, why, maybe he changed his mind, he saw things he didn't understand well.
But it's a risk,
Risk,
it's a risk.
I'll take it, I'll go to him.
I understand, but this is why we need to understand the person in front of us. If I was a Boeing engineer, what are the chances I want a pre-listing package to read?
Pretty hard.
Pretty high. But if all I do is graffiti work, what are the chances I want to look at a pre-listing presentation, right? So I think it's just a little of knowing our audience, but the best way to find that out is just to ask a sample question. Would you like me to send anything? And I didn't say, can I send you my pre-listing package? I said, is there anything important that you'd like to see before that meeting we have on Thursday night?
I mean, the game is more controllable.
But the answer is what I'm saying, Jack, the answer to the question is telling you their character type.
The choice.
Because if they say, could you send me some pictures of comps? They're more creative and emotional. If they say, could you send me the contract so I can read it first? They're a little bit more logical and you're sizing up.
Maybe he's a busy investor.
Maybe, but either way. But what you need to do, back to trust and rapport, is to get them to understand in order for us to properly do this, there are other things that have to happen along the way. I need to see the home, I need to understand, right, its condition, its location, the features, the benefits, all those great things, right? And that is an important factor for you to talk about pricing and all the things that come with that. So setting an appointment. Don't have a fear of asking. And it's okay that somebody says no. It really is. It's just helping you understand some things. What sellers want, I don't know what page we're on. What sellers want most from their agent. Help pricing a home. Help seller market home to potential buyers. Help sell the home within a specific time frame. Help seller find ways to fix it up, and then other. Sure what other means. I don't know if there's something in the book. Okay. We'll come up with some others. So let's just start with the biggest percentile. Other. What other things do you think you could help a seller with? They're expecting or would love for you to be able to help. Does it be
Nice person.
well, but we have that here. So think of others outside
Oh,
of,
price.
yeah, think of something else that a seller might need help with.
Maybe looking for third-party contractors or movers.
Sure, absolutely. Maybe they do want to fix the
You
road.
wanna
before they
leverage
put it
off
on the
your
market.
contacts
Sure.
or whatever.
Yes. What else? Could be other.
Wouldn't that be under find ways to fix us?
It could be,
But
yeah,
then movers.
yeah, movers maybe. What else? Yeah, what else?
There might be a house. They will rent.
They want to go somewhere. That would be cool, right? Help them find their replacement house. Yep, I like that one. What else? If you were selling your home, what else?
The loan market.
Maybe the loan, maybe the mortgage.
Ensure that all the documents are there. all the
Sure,
disclosures are
documents,
there.
disclosures, paperwork. Okay, tough one, huh? Which is why you have the checklist, which I'll get back to you a little later. All right, so how do we price our home competitively? What do you need to know to price the home? What's that?
Comps,
Yeah, what in particular?
size lot, bedrooms and bathrooms,
All that, right? So we're trying to get to a place where we're comparing things a little bit more apple to
apples to apples, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Not an easy thing to do. That goes back to my earlier statement of how diverse our community is, right? It's always fun, right? When you're looking at the MLS and you see a house, and the first picture is this amazing ocean view. And then you get to the house and they were standing on the neighbor's roof in order to take that picture, right? So remember, right, there are things the seller thinks and feels, and then there's the things that you're gonna think and feel, and we have to find a way to mesh that. So I will tell you that the more motivated a seller is, the more competitive they're willing to be on their sales price. So again, these are nuggets, these are little breadcrumb trails that the seller will give you. So if I said your house is worth between 1 million and 1.1 million. And you don't know where you're moving yet, where do you want to price your home,
1.4.
right? And if you already have a deposit on another house, where do you want to price your house?
1 point.
Probably closer to the lower end of that range, right? And those are just examples, right?
He's interested the most how much he's gonna do the net and find the buyer without the commission.
Right. So all of these things, these two here, pricing competitively and the time frame can be tied together to a certain degree. Why is help seller find ways to fix up a home important? What does that mean to you in general?
This would make curb appeal.
Curb appeal can be part of it, what else? It should increase the price. Now, here's what I will tell you.
Past inspection.
So there's two components in a conversation with the seller about future value, all right? The easiest one, the most common one is HGTV. That is, if I remodel my kitchen and my bathrooms, I might find more value. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
What if it's done in poor taste?
You just decrease value.
Okay, possibly, right? So there's a couple things to consider if a seller wants to remodel their home. Theoretically, they could get more for their property, but it has to be done correctly. Meaning, it has to cater to the demand of that buyer in that neighborhood. So if it's a $3 million home, you might not go to Home Depot to do your bathroom. Are you guys with me? It's all in relation, right? So there's that part of it, and then the second part of this is sometimes they need to put money in the property just to maintain its value. Doesn't mean they're gonna get any more value. We're talking roof, plumbing, electrical, foundation, things that they might have to spend money on just to maintain a certain value. You guys with me?
Yep.
Okay, so there's a couple components that are tied into that. And then the red one, which is 20%, is help seller market the home to potential buyers. Now, back to the market, where the power is. If it's a seller's market, how difficult is it going to be to sell my home?
It can be easy.
Probably gonna be a little easier, especially the first couple days it's on the market live, right? Because that's when everybody's little notifications are going off, sounding the alarm, right? So if I'm a seller and I know my neighborhood pretty well, that might not mean much to me, right? So back to your value proposition. So you're talking to Uncle Brandon here about why I should hire you, and you're gonna tell me all these great things. Well, I can put it in the MLS and I do photos and I do all these other things that everybody else does. There's no value in that. I want you to understand, right, from that perspective. Now, if the property is unique, if the property is in a specific neighborhood that people are looking in, if the property would be a good ideal candidate for a foreign investor, that's where this will play a little heavier. Right? I'm a seller and I have a unique property, or I have in a unique neighborhood, or I'm in a unique price point. I need a different kind of exposure. That's where my demand is. I remember, guys, if you're familiar with the South Bay, you guys familiar with Diggs Magazine? Okay. It's a high-end place for real estate agents to advertise property for sale. If I did a full-page ad for you to sell your home, I would probably spend $3,500 per month. Okay? So there are a ton of sellers who have an expectation that their house is gonna be in this magazine. That's a heavy expense, $3,500. You guys ready to write a check for $3,500? Just do it. So that I can satisfy my neighbors and my family and friends that my house was in the magazine. Now, if that's where the buyers are going to find property, is that a wise investment?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so you have to have a good understanding of the market, the product you're selling, where the people are that are looking for that, and what is the expectation of the seller. I'm a super realistic guy. I'm like, if I was talking to you about selling your home, there's probably a bunch of things I would say we don't need to do. Because if we price it properly, we do these other things, we'll have a buyer tomorrow. But I've lost listings because the seller expectation is, I want to see you spend $55,000 of the $60,000 I'm gonna pay you. Then the question is, do I want that listing or not? Maybe not. So
He's got the wrong lens in.
maybe. All right, so that's right? Having a good understanding of your audience is extremely important. So how are you going to do all of these things, right? And that takes, sometimes that just takes logic. Well, confidence and trust. I think we spent some time on that. I need to hide this thing. Does anybody know how to hide this?
Try to right click and then see what comes up.
Oh, that was the video.
There you go.
No,
No.
there we go. How's that? All right, 7, close to appointment tactics, show the benefits, take back close, negative, positive close, give them what they're looking for, trial close, some close tight ends. Holy moly, they added a bunch of trendy things here for you guys to. Huh. Let me just look at this for a second here. So many of the classes you guys haven't taken yet. Okay. I'm gonna come back to this. I'm not quite sure what, I didn't know we were trying to teach these tactics. All right,
Well, Simon didn't really go through those either.
okay, yeah,
It's like a close, like.
well, we can talk about trial closes and all that fun stuff, but I think we should probably do some of those content. We're supposed to be done by when? 4? Okay. Questions versus objections. When a question is asked, answer it. When an objection comes up, address it. So, what is your commission? Now I'm the seller. And I ask you what your commission is. Is that an objection or just a question?
That's a question.
That's a question.
So it could be an objection.
It would probably sound a little different, right? An objection would be, I don't want to pay that. So let's stick with the question. So what's your commission?
3%.
3%, like that one. Okay, what else? If you're not comfortable saying it in here, you're gonna have a hard time in front of somebody. What's your biggest fear? They're not gonna want to pay you? Which is start high. I don't really charge that
I
much.
mean, you just give a possible bargain for compromise for negotiation, you start from. Right,
Well, when was the last time you asked somebody how much they were making and you had a hard time with what they told you they were making?
completely look at the
Looks
loss.
like almost you're thinking. Right? We have a tendency, right? Our fear is if I say the wrong thing, they're not gonna want to do business with me. Would you agree with that?
We don't want to lose it.
Okay, are you in the business to make money? Yes. Do you know what your bottom line is? What's the least you would charge me to list my home?
2%.
2%. What would have to happen from me in order for you to be okay getting paid 2%?
Sign this contract right now.
So, and that's where I want you to just think about, we talked a little bit about the process. You have to realize that if I'm gonna be a pain in the ass, 2% might not be enough. Is that fair? So be careful what you ask for. If you have to know, if you know the seller has some responsibility, what are you willing to sacrifice to make 2%? So if the house was vacant and I could put it on a lockbox and make my life easy, I consider 2%. But you live there, I have to ask you to pick up your underwear every other day. It's hard to show your house. Are you guys with me? Okay, so what you haven't experienced yet is enough of these transactions to get a gauge. That's why I'm throwing this at you, and I don't want to create fear.
And it also depends if you're talking about $20 million house versus $1 million house.
There's all these sides. All I'm simply saying is, don't let it be so black.
You
And
kind of need to
don't,
get a feel for people too while you're there. I'm a painting contractor.
okay,
I know when I'm doing my pricing, I'm kind of talking with people to get a read on, are they gonna be extra picky, or are they just kind of,
Sure.
their bag just want to get it done? Work with a lot of real estate agents.
doesn't matter if I have a ton of pictures all over the wall.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's the point I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to make is, you you have to be okay knowing where you are in the conversation when the question is asked. If it's early on, you haven't even seen the house, give them a range. Work between 2 and 20%, whatever it is. I'm intentionally trying to joke with you because I want to break you of the fear. Listen, I'm in the business to make money, right? I'm a business owner, just like you.
And that's when you say hit them with the, I'm with Keller Williams, we have
Sure.
a big team behind us, you know, we're with everything.
But I'm here to help you understand what it is you're hearing, the difference between somebody asking you a legit question and someone's complaining about it. That's an objection. Right? So what's the minimum you work for? And the answer should be, it depends. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's just be clear with yourself. Right? Would you take, what if it was a $20 million list? Would you do it for less than 2%?
Yes.
Well, what if you knew ahead of time that I was willing to pay 2%? Would you still offer it for less?
You could have to get a feel for, let's have a conversation.
But what I'm saying is also as a business person, do you want to leave any money on?
I say some people will just see what they can get.
Maybe
Maybe willing to go.
There's nothing wrong with asking, right? This is a negotiation, right? Okay, so what do you charge? What do you pay? What do you get paid? And we all agree, there are some other things that would help you decide. So the least amount, you need to figure out on your own what you would take for a listing. Right? But I would just say, don't leave anybody on the table. So we've been going through the buyer side of things. And what have you been told about the new buyer broker rate? Did it sign for 2%?
No.
Did it sign for how much?
3%.
Why? Because it's easier to go down because you can't go up. So it's okay to say, listen, I normally charge 3.5%. Why do you ask? Are you with me? So this is just us getting prepared. So the objection is, oh, Brandon, you said 3.5%. I think 3.5% is too high. That's the objection. So the question was, what do you charge? I said 3.5%. They said, I think that's too high. That's an objection. So now how do you handle the objection?
You
By
provide the
explaining
value.
our value, I use the best photographer.
Maybe. Maybe. What I don't want you to do is argue and debate with me. What I want you to do is just understand why is that too much. Help me understand. That's where I would prefer you to go. Because you are in a business, right, where you have to make a living, you have to be profitable. But it's subject to negotiation. It's like you can't blame somebody for asking. But the idea is to understand their intention behind the question or the objection. That is how we should be playing this game, right? Okay. Did I make you mad already? Yeah.
No, I have to get.
It's all good. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, pre-listing packet. You probably heard quite a bit about this. We're gonna teach a class one of these days called 6 Personal Perspectives. And one of those is how to get from E to P. And E stands for your entrepreneurial self. P stands for your purposeful self. And it's more of how do we get through a breakthrough when it comes from E to P. I'll give you an example. Have you guys ever seen a sprint race? Right? Male or female sprinting 100-meter sprint. You guys ever seen that?
Yes.
Okay, or something similar? Okay, have you ever been in one of those races? All right. So what is the person in front not doing? Racing. They're not looking to see where anybody else is, are they? Right?
No.
What would happen if I'm sprinting and I turn to see where my competitors are? You typically slow down, right? So you might have a natural ability, you might be a great athlete, you might know how to run fast, that's E. So how do you be purposeful? So are you looking at the finish line?
Yes.
You are not. Purposeful is you're looking past the finish line. You're running through the finish line. And that's an example of E to P. So we have to be able to take a purposeful approach back to understanding the process. So I want to commission and I want to get it closed, but there are things that have to happen to get me across that finish line. That's what E to P basically means. Is that fair? Is that okay? So yeah, you can have great focus. Do you have models and systems? And what does that breakthrough look like? And we're going to spend more time on that. when we get into the 6 personal perspectives. All right, so the pre-listing packet, now, some of the terminology has changed. So just to be fair, this is where my brain goes, and then I'll dive into this. If you were each a seller and considering selling your home and you wanted to interview me for potentially selling and marketing your home, it'll probably sound something like this, and we've talked a little bit about it. I love the opportunity, but I want you to know my past success comes from a process that we live by. And the first part of that process is me coming to your home to look at your home. So we've kind of talked about that, right? Did that make sense?
Yeah.
And what are the reasons I want to see the property?
Budget. Evaluate it.
We gotta know what it is that we're selling, right? Now, part B of that is where we're at here. What I want you to understand though, when I get there, my intention is to not talk to you about pricing. Is that okay? Are you with me?
Yeah.
So if my intention is to go to your home so that I get a good gauge of it and not talk to you about pricing, what's the reason behind it? Because I haven't seen your home. I can't give you an accurate price. Are you with me? So what E to P looks like for me is even though you gave me your address and even though we agreed that I'm gonna meet you there for the first time to see your home and not talk price, means that I didn't run comps on it. Most agents that run comps, they go, oh my God, it's a $3 million home, and they times 0.2.5, and they start spending their money and they haven't even got a listing agreement. Now, if my intention was to not talk to you about price and I ran comps, and now I'm at the property and I say, so what do you think it's worth? What would you say? If you ran the comps, you're stuck. Because you're either gonna be a liar and say, I don't really know yet. Or you're gonna say, well, I ran the comps when I got here and I thought it was gonna be worth 3 million, and now that I've walked it, I only think it's worth 2 million. Like, is that the conversation you wanna be having? Are you hearing what I'm saying? So the whole intention is, this is the opportunity for not only for me to see your property, it's to size up your motivation. It's to size up what works for you. Do you need to read the whole contract? Do you not need to read the whole contract? Right? And it gives me the opportunity to go back and actually run the comps. So my pre-listing package does not have what? Comps, EMA, any of that stuff. So my pre-listing package is designed to say, here are the steps in order for us to successfully sell and market your home. This is why you should hire me, my value proposition, all of those great things, why I'm with Keller Williams, and that you have in command. So you have a pre-listing packet in there, and then you have a listing presentation, which is completely different. So I'm just giving you a little snapshot of why the two are really different. Now, what would be a circumstance where I might not need to do a pre-listing packet or preview the property first? What would be the circumstance? The seller would be what? Super motivated. So there are going to be certain circumstances, and basically they follow these two patterns. The seller is super motivated. They know what they need to do. They probably have some experience buying and selling real estate, but they want to make a connection with the listing agent, right? So that's one. I just need to move. And the second is they know you. If they already know you, they're probably not going to want to play the dance. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I already know you. Maybe you went over to the barbecue, whatever. I want to have that. When you have trust and rapport, there's some things you don't necessarily have to worry about. But it doesn't mean you stop practicing real estate. It means I have a job to do. Even though you're my best friend, Yuki, you're counting on me to do a job. So I want you to appreciate that if I come over, I'm gonna wear my wheels. Okay? It's how you set up the conversation that can help you, right? Now, saving time, all of that. Yeah, absolutely. When you're there and you know you're not talking numbers with them, what are the chances you have an easier conversation with them? What are the chances they're going to tell you a little bit more about their family? I'm not saying everybody doesn't do that, but what I'm simply saying is when money's not on the table, it's a lot easier to talk about those things. That's the point I was trying to make. So the pre-listing goals are significant unless it's super competitive, unless they're super motivated. Sometimes it's in a, how many of you have done a listing presentation? Anyone? Okay. And this is where like, I'm genuinely, let's say this. You need to do it. You need to do both, like in the next week. There's so many important factors for you getting a presentation done, whether you use it or not. Because it forces you to know who you are when the moment finally comes that you've been working hard at to meet a buyer or seller and they say, I'd like to sit down, tell me more about you. Hey, Jack, I'm really interested in working with you. Could you send me some stuff about yourself tonight? By 8 o'clock. If you don't have, like, what do you do? Okay, so I'm just gonna say it there, do it. Have it done, because it's one less thing that you'll have to worry about. It teaches you so many things right out of the gate by putting your presentation together, okay? Both the buyer and the seller.
During the listing here, when they ask how much the house costs, what's gonna be the, how to avoid the answer?
It's a great question. I can give you a range, but let me ask you this, Jack. What if I gave you a number today and I was wrong? How would you feel about it?
That's the thing, so
So,
let me confirm it after, I can say that, right?
absolutely. Or you can simply say what I said, like, my experience is, the best way to do this is for us to have a really good conversation about pricing your home. I gotta see it. Is that fair? Would you buy something that you haven't
Because
seen?
you cannot sign if you don't get it.
Well, you can still have a listing agreement with you. Listen, if it's a good day. All right, it's a good day. Now you got a dessert happening and now you got an extra drink.
This is different.
Okay, I'm just saying, it's the same
But if
thing.
it sounds and then you get it.
I haven't been on very many days where I've asked anyone to sign anything. Right? It's the second date, it's the third date, it's that, yep. So you have, this available in Command, if you don't already have one, I don't want you to fear. If you don't like the ones in Command, there are some great templates on Canva. So make it your own, make it your brand. Any questions on the pre-listing packet? Okay, we said a lot about that. Listing appointment. So it's a little different. So if you could visualize that this was done the right way, we had some conversation, we had some pre-listing appointment conversation. Should we have a little more confidence, right? In what we're doing and what we're talking about with a seller? Because we were intentional about that pre-listing. Yes, 100%. Asking simple questions. What's important to you before I come over? Right? Does the environment matter? All those things. So tell me some things if I were coming over to your house. Tell me some things you would be judging me on if you were looking out the window, waiting for me to pull up.
How many properties have you listed?
No? Just pretend you're waiting for me to show up and you're just looking out the window. What do you expect from me? Am I clean? What?
The car is
Is
washed.
my car washed? Like, think about what we're talking about. What are you trying to accomplish on this extremely important meeting?
The look, the
You like walk into
Professional
the
organized.
What's that?
They're very professional and organized.
Maybe, yeah, so let's just, and it's the goofiest things, that's why I always talk about dating. You're paying attention to these things anyway, right? You're sizing up the kind of car, whether it's clean, how they're dressed, are they clean shaven, are they not clean shaven, is their shirt tucked in, or is it not? Are they wearing flip flops, are they not? All right, but where do they park? I have seen agents pull right in the driveway, I've seen them like, I'm just simply saying, think about a very important, right, park. What would impress me the most is if I didn't see you pull up and I saw you walking. But you parked down the street, and you were getting a sense of the neighbors and all the other stuff, and maybe you weren't letting the world know, like my neighbors, that I have a listing appointment. I don't know, just saying. People are funny, right? Look, here's the irony. The irony is when we've set appointments in the past with sellers, we literally talk just like this. So let me ask you a question. If you know I'm coming over, what are you expecting from me when I pull up? And they always laugh. Like, so don't overthink this stuff, guys, have fun. Set yourself up for success, right? All right, so it is important how we do a little of this. Share your price recommendation. If you took the negotiating class, right, we talk about anchoring. Anchoring is a really big important part of what we're gonna be doing. I personally feel, two things. One, you should never be the decision maker on what they price their home at. It always needs to be their decision. Okay, and I'll go through a couple exercises with you on that real quick. And then the second part of that is always talk in a range. So never get a specific price. I think your property is worth between 970,000 and 1,030,000. And the rest matters to who? The seller. And that all depends on their motivation. So I don't want to get in the weeds, but what I don't want you to do is say, it's worth $1 million, when you know damn well, every property you've seen in the MLS never closes at the same price it was listed for. So why would you want to do that to begin with? So don't set yourself up for failure, right? So set that tone. And if they push back and they say, well, I don't really want to be the decision maker. How would you handle that? That's a good objective. I don't really want, you tell me what the price needs to be. How do you handle that?
Well, would you be okay with this price?
I would say,
I wouldn't do that.
I completely understand, I do not want to set up your price. However, given the fact that I took a look at your house and I did look at the properties around your area, my intuition or my expertise would let you know that it's between this and this.
I know.
Whatever your,
So you said between 970 and 1,030,000. So what do you think of the price? already got
probably you're asking me?
Yeah, you're the agent, I'm the seller. And I just told you, don't tell me the price.
Okay, so I would say, I will let you decide that, that's
Well,
something,
that's silly, I wanna hire you, why, just tell me the price.
range would be pretty good.
I already gave you the range. What price? And I'm being hard for
You're
a
being
reason.
idiots.
Okay, I'm being an idiot, that's fine, I've been known that my whole life. Here's what I want, because I want you to not be pressured into giving the price, because that's the most dangerous thing I think we can do. Because what if you tell me to list it for $1 million and sell it for 970? Okay, just don't overthink it. All you gotta do is say, listen, I want you to understand, I can't have that responsibility. That's why I gave you a range. What do you think is the best price for this property? You just gotta keep pushing back. So don't.
They feel like they're pressuring you to say something.
Right, so
but you don't want
what's
to
the
say.
most difficult situation is when you have trust and rapport. When you're already friends. Yuki's like, well, Brandon, tell me, what should I price that? And I will still not give an answer. Oh, here, spin a wheel, do something, flip a coin, but I'm not gonna have that responsibility. It's not, it's for you. We had a great conversation, we had, your property is somewhere in this range, you pick. If you can talk about the pros and the cons on the low side and the high side, that hopefully that conversation.
Can you help them figure out what that
Look
price
around.
would be?
You can do anything you want. I'm just telling you, my experience is, it's always shot me in the foot.
So,
Because
but
it sells
can-
for less,
It can sell for more. I'm underpriced.
so that's a good thing, it sells for more, right?
Not necessarily,
it depends on the
because
market.
I've had sellers who felt like there was money left on the table because we underpriced it, even if it went over ask. It's just one of those goofy little scenarios, so it's the same with a buyer. What do you think we should write an offer at? It's listed for $1 million, what should we write an offer? What did you say earlier? 1.4, that's what I would say, 1.4. It is the toughest thing, because you're supposed to be the advisor, and you're supposed to know. You're not the one buying it, and you're not the one selling it, and you have to just be okay saying, listen, I appreciate that, how bad do you want it? How quickly do you want to sell it? Like, all of those things are the most important, but when you don't give a range, you're stuck. You just created an anchor that you can't get out of. Which is why I was joking with you that interest rates are between 1 and 20, because if I told you that they're 6 3/4 or 6.5, and then you go over here and talk to Chris, and Chris goes, no, then they only qualify for 7 1/8. You just ruined their world because you told them 6.5. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
So don't be the bearer of bad news. That's not, you just don't know. Is that fair? It's not gonna know the answer.
So, Brandon, how do you get out of that position where we're stuck in a pickle because I can't tell you and you can't, and you expect me to?
I think the best thing to do is to say just that. I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I would like to go back in time and start this conversation. I would literally would say that. I would, like, just don't go down the rabbit hole. No, it's like, be humble. Like, nobody has ever gotten mad at me for being humble. Well, you know what? I screwed up. I'm sorry. I really, no, I don't. And there's a reason why I give a range. I give a range because we don't know exactly what a buyer's gonna think. Do I want to leave any money on the table for you? Absolutely not. But I need you to understand that it can't be my decision. I'm okay on the high side. If you want to have that conversation again, I'll have that conversation again. I mean, because we can have a conversation that a person who can afford $1 million home can probably afford $1,030,000, right? Yes.
Can you say something like, what if we put it like on the higher end, if it doesn't sell, we'll reduce it to a little bit? Can you kind of wiggle?
What I don't want you to do is not get the limit. Right? And you take it over prices,
You can,
as long as you have a plan.
Another instructor said, it's not from me, another instructor said, go and give his name, better not take it because you're not gonna be able to sell.
And have that person, whenever they have an overpriced seller, give me the referral. Just give it to me, I'll take care of it. What they're trying to tell you is absolutely important. Do you want to spend $3,000 to get a listing on the market for it to not sell? I understand that business decision, which is why I said I have to have a plan. All those overpriced listings go to somebody, and whether they do price reductions or not, they still sell to somebody else. So you guys, I want you to be smart about it, talk to your mentor or whatever. If it's $1 million home and they want 1.4, probably not. But they can still have a plan. I'll test the waters for 10 days at 1.4, but you gotta do me a favor, after 10 days, and I'm gonna put it in the listing, we're gonna drop it 300 grand, you okay? That's a plan. That's what I'm saying. Now, could it backfire? Yes, and that's, again, that we teach this in the negotiating classes, going through what are all the what ifs, so that you're not necessarily doing that. I don't want you to not miss an opportunity. So, but if the seller is genuinely wasting people's time, I had a listing agent in Colorado, Jack. She was in a hot market, property 68 days on market, never like the longest days on market for that, right, and going on at that time. And her name was Nicole, and she comes in and she's like, I'm having a hard time with the seller, we're not really showing, we've had a couple offers, but they were lower than what the asking price is, and I said, is she single? What's her name? She's like, yeah. I go, she in her 60s or 70s? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I go talk to her and just ask her if she just needs company. I don't think she wants to sell. She literally went back and had a conversation. She was lonely. She just wanted some activity. I'm not saying it's right or wrong and that I'm a listening whisperer. I'm just simply saying you have to know what you're getting into, right?
And is there a trick or techniques that somebody can reset it the days on the MLS?
Not really. I
You say
mean,
you cancel anything.
well, it might show as 1 day or 0 days on market. If you click on the calendar days or the history of the property, you can see how many times they've done it.
So both, doesn't it show both, like days on market and then.
But it depends on what you do, like if you put it on hold or if you withdraw it. So there's different techniques. So what we'll do in those scenarios is just do an address search. And that's the conversation that you have with the listing agent. So mind your trick tool.
Gotta make it happen one way or another.
Yeah. Okay, so this is probably really important for me too, is I am a believer that you are licensed to help people. You are not licensed to help yourself. You're a business owner, and you should be helping people and making money at the same time. Are you guys with me? But they need to feel that it's about them and their needs. So make sure when you're going through your presentations that it's crafted in such a way, right? Your needs come first. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time in that. The walkthrough, whoa. You know, this just doesn't have page numbers, does it? Are you guys following along in the book? Are you guys even following along?
Yeah.
Slides.
I'm just following along.
I don't want to just ramble. I need to know that I'm being recorded. That's the biggest thing. Okay. Listing walkthrough. So we talked about the importance of seeing the property, right? Remember, you're starting to view the property the minute you pull up. Everybody got that? So we're sizing things up, and I know we're very judgmental, but remember, this isn't about you. That's the hardest thing. Is what can you do to help this seller find the right buyer who's going to pay the most amount of money with the least amount of resistance? That's really our goal. So what are things that you want to look at or look for when you're walking through a property?
Start from the outside.
So
Thank you.
sure. So I think it all starts with how you set the expectation. I think it all starts with the seller. I think it all starts with the property. Some people are going to meet you, some people aren't. Some people are going to be there, some people aren't. You know, I've had to walk a ton of properties that are vacant, so nobody's meeting me there. I've had to go to properties that are like probate or a trust, and we have to meet family there. And each one of them needs a little bit of attention. Each one of them has a little bit of a story to tell for whatever reason, right? So remember, you're building trust and rapport. But the property itself is going to also tell you things. If I'm walking up and the first thing I see in the step going to the door is a handprint in the concrete. What does that tell you? I like seriously, like that you're gonna meet people who are very emotionally tied to their property. Okay, and it's just a reality. And so with that comes courtesy and respect and just letting people do it. Now, how you set that expectation is fully up to you. My go-to with pretty much everybody is, hey, thanks for having me in your home. Tell me a story. That's how I start it all. And their character just, it'll happen. If they're super logical, they're like, well, what kind of story do you want to hear? If they're super emotional, they just start telling you about the house. They just start walking you through the house. Are you guys with me? So like, don't overthink it, but the more they feel you care about whatever it is that they want or need to share, the better. That's really what I'm trying to say, right? But you also are paying attention to things. Talk about condition, right? Is the floor creaky? Does it feel like it's sloping? Right? Is there a ton of family photos on the wall? Like all of that is painting a picture, right? If they've lived there for 40 years, I usually take the frame and I kind of look at it or I move it a little bit. What am I looking for?
How long it's been there?
Yeah, I'm looking for stains or they smoke. Have you ever been in a house where there's a heavy smoker? Like it's all stained, bro. But what, it's not that I'm judging that they're smoking. I'm simply saying, if I have to get this house ready for market, what are the things that we need to do based on their motivation, right? Stairs, good, is it good or bad that they have stairs? Which direction are the stairs going? All of these things are a factor, believe it or not, right? So condition along with the story. Well, I want to show you my kitchen. I completely remodeled the kitchen. Great, but it was 1993. But they're proud of it, right? I've walked into homes that they've owned for 40, 50 years. And, you know, I've updated my house over time. And one room is the 70s, and the other room is the 80s, and the bathroom is the 90s, and right, you just see all these little decades along the way, but they're proud of it, right? So listening walkthrough is extremely important, being respectful and courteous along the way. This isn't done probably enough. A little handwritten note or a text message with some emojis just to thank them for sharing the information, so keep that in mind. Whoa, we can't be done.
And the sheet, for the pages was toward the end. Looked like it was-
We haven't even gotten the listing agreement. Oh, here it is, okay. Sorry, I didn't know there was, whoa. Okay, I guess they want me to do the listing agreement. Wow, okay, how many of you read the listing agreement? How many of you are waiting for the movie? You know, some people don't read books, but it's actually they want to wait for the movie.
Yeah, like,
And their dad jokes, man, okay, that's what I'm famous for, you know, give me a little credit, would you please?
that was funny.
Okay. So the listing agreement, well, there are things in the listing agreement that are extremely important. Agency, right? My question is, without going into a lot of details, is how comfortable would you be explaining the listing agreement?
Not very.
What would need to happen in order for you to feel more comfortable?
Read it more,
Study it,
understand
read
it
it more.
Okay, so sometimes that doesn't work for me, like I have to like role play it, I have to ask questions, so what I would recommend is. I know Simon does the Friday stuff, but I know some of us work and stuff, but. You gotta find a way to make time or watch some of the recordings when I role play with this.
Are you on the
Yeah,
AI?
okay, perfect.
Check, it'll go back. and forth, you
Perfect,
can just-
whatever gets you a little bit more comfortable in understanding the contract. Contract is there, right, for a reason, but we don't want you to feel intimidated by it. So the other thing that we have going for us is technology, right? Technology is awesome. I still have clients who want things printed out and they want to read it. Still want to go through it that. We have a service called Glide. If you're not familiar with Glide. Glide is a great service that you can send like a buyer rep agreement or a listing agreement or agency, any of our forms you can send ahead of time. And it educates, they can read through it without you having to download a PDF or anything. They can actually read through it and there's notes that can be made and you can highlight certain things that might be important to you or the team that you're on, and it just gives them an opportunity to read through it. And again, you can also, pay attention. Are they reading it or not? Right, so, it's like social media, right? You know, people view it or they click it or whatever, so same thing, so. How would you feel if you sent me the listing agreement ahead of time? Right, through Glide, so that I can read it myself, but then you realize I haven't even opened it.
Realize?
So you're on your way and you sent me the listing agreement 3 days ago to read through, but I haven't even opened the file. Yeah, so I'm just saying, without judgment, what I want you to pay attention to is. There's things that you can do that are helpful for some people and not so helpful for others.
Well, in that situation, you would, if you got there and you realize they hadn't got over it, well, okay, let's take a few minutes.
Yes, there's a lot of things.
So,
It'll be judgmental, just,
Right.
okay, well, the solution to every problem. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying.
So you also have DocuSign, you also have zip forms, you also have a lot of resources. I would always at least keep a couple of blanks handy. That if for whatever reason you happen to be at the pre-listing presentation, they just fall in love with you and then it's like. Let's get the listing agreement. I had listing agreements signed. That didn't have a price. And it doesn't mean that they were giving me an open check, we just had an agreement. Because it was ahead of time, that we're gonna review comps and come up with prices.
Previously you spoke to them, that's.
I wanted to make sure that we were comfortable working with each other, getting it signed, and didn't want to have to worry about anything, and I can fill in the blanks. But I don't overthink this stuff, right? So sometimes it's important to be prepared to the right clients, sometimes the right clients are okay too, they're like, oh, we'll figure this out over the next couple of days, and that's, it's okay. So don't overthink it, but have it handy. And maybe they don't like technology, we have two sisters that are in their late 70s. Getting them to do anything on DocuSign, it's just a lot easier to drive over there and have them sign.
And you put his her name on it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with handwriting a contract. We used to have to handwrite a lot of things. Right? Yeah. Okay, So that's the listing agreement, making sure that you guys are comfortable with the listing agreement. Anybody have any questions on it while I'm there? Any
So
fear?
for the listing, sorry, for the listing agreement, do you have to? What can you get away with not putting in and
Still have it signed?
still have it signed, like,
I mean, honestly, all of it. You just have to have, you just have to be on the same page with the seller about when and how you're gonna get the rest of it done. Like 72 hours would be the longest I would go with a listing agreement now, all the whole still there.
so if they have a listing agreement handwritten signed, is that validated as far as well as, do you still want them to send the DocuSigns or?
That's, I don't think Tammy would, I don't think I would. If you have a transaction coordinator, there's just too much, risk trying to change things along the way, like. I would just leave, if they're all good with handwritten wet signatures, then I'm scanning it in and it's good,
Okay.
yep, check.
Go ahead, Corinne, Brian.
Oh, it just, it sounds like it's okay then to have like half of the contract for that transaction in forms handwritten, and then once the transaction coordinator takes over, that could be totally fine, isn't it?
And you could actually go with a lot of it filled out. Too. And it just, again, it's who's in front of you, if you walk in with that kind of confidence and they're happy that you did it all, I mean. The challenge in this business is it's just no magic bullet, there's no one thing. It's just really understanding people and understanding the contracts. Question is, if I start reading it and ask questions, do you know how to get to it? That's the biggest thing. So don't go down I'm not an attorney rabbit hole. Because we know you're not an attorney, nobody's asking you to be an attorney, but you're asking somebody to sign something. So you darn well better be able to explain what it is you're signing, right? And that, again, I think practice is important, the role play stuff that I think they do here pretty frequently is good.
This one I was gonna ask.
So, right,
Wednesdays, 11 with Eric, we're doing
Yeah.
the conversation of the cold call and no, we never did listing. Why don't we ask Simon to do this as a seller and
yeah.
agent, because this is the toughest experiment,
And the cool thing about the listing packet, the listing kit, the buyer stuff, if you guys start building yours, the kit or the templates already have the process and the next steps and stuff in there. So that's when it'll help you on that journey of being able to. And I think it's okay to never be afraid if someone says, well, what happens next? Well, open up your whatever, your little flow chart, and go, this. It's okay that you're new. People sometimes are okay that you're newer because they don't necessarily feel so much pressure either. Right, so take advantage of being new. I can't remember her name, there's an agent that's been around for 20+ years, and that's her thing. And she always pretends she's new.
Really?
That it works?
That's the work for her.
Why did she present
She
you?
just, I'm really not sure, but let me find out.
What is this? We need to talk to her so we feel more comfortable.
You
Well,
must have like a scared face or something.
no, she's good. Okay. I think you guys have talked a lot about this,
Yeah.
yes? Do not call. Yeah. We can do this in a second. I just feel like we're missing stuff. The heck are we missing? It's all kind of the same stuff, huh?
Yeah, that's what we use.
So we can use the command to find all these listing agreements and all that on there?
Yeah, so let me, I don't know that well, I think it only showed opportunities in here. When you go into command,
I can't find this paper that in the command in the hub. There is a listing presentation and buyer presentation.
well, you need to be, well, I know that's the hub.
Because this
But
is.
if you go to command, no.
It's nice.
There.
Go to command.
That's it, if you wanna go.
So over here on designs.
I think we all have the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
goal.
we all have the same ones.
So,
Makes the better class.
Yes.
Everybody has their own insights. I'll be something to thought about.
I like the fact that I think you have an advantage because you've already made money to a lot of people's homes and it's like, it's sort of comfortable.
Not worried talking from you. DJ.
By the list.
oh, checklist. Oh,
Yeah.
I would ask,
People are people, everybody.
our transaction coordinator.
People are sorry.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so. I just feel like we're missing a couple things here, and I think it's the. I think so.
I think we're done.
Oh, we are done.
Recapping.
Okay. All right, I don't know how to get Zoom back. I guess don't worry about it. Okay, so I apologize. I'm not used to teaching Ignite very often anymore. So what are some takeaways, some things you learned, some things you want to know more about? You want to
Role play practice.
down, you want to practice anything in particular? Most people don't like to role play with me, so. What am I?
You're smart and intelligent.
No, what'd you say? I was an idiot or something?
I said, you're on my face. too
Well,
much.
that's what I'm saying, but that the whole idea is to toughen you up. When you're feeling defensive, the best thing you do is start asking. Questions are always the same.
Don't fall into the,
Yeah. Okay, so let's just do a little recap. What's the difference between the pre-listing and the listing presentation?
Yeah, the previous, you should do that before you get there for them to go over. Because
Appointment.
the listing agreement, when you're there, and they kind of have an idea of where you're going. Plus, it lets you gauge if they've read it, and if they've, you know, that you can.
What's the intention behind the pre-listing packet compared to the listing presentation?
To get a gauge on them,
Right, but you're also still giving information,
yes,
right? But a good agent will say, I have stuff available. Is there anything important you want me to send you ahead of time? Because that's, all of this stuff is customizable. Like, again, you don't want to send, and if you guys run comps or if you do CMAs, if you guys are familiar with like RPR, have you guys done any of the RPR stuff? Have you ever printed one out? Yeah, who reads 80 pages of they just want to know what their house is worth. I'm just saying, I get all the gizmo stuff, man, so that's why instead of me printing out 80 pages and sending it to Jack going, here, good luck, pour yourself a glass of wine and call me later, no, I have a lot of stuff available. We're talking about selling your home, what are some things I can send you in advance that would be important? Just like, don't overthink it.
You can choose 8 only properties in RPR. Not standing only, yeah, I mean, no, you
Oh.
can while printing, you just print the pages that you want. Is this the only criteria that we're gonna give the price to the customer? Because CMA, we're gonna do it.
So here's the thing, you guys, I don't think you guys have seen all the tools in your tool belt yet. You haven't seen all the tools. Nobody's done a buyer presentation, no one's done a listing presentation, like, if I asked you for one right now and sent it to me, what would you send me?
we've looked at the box, we haven't. opened it up enough.
So I'm just simply saying is, so if you're out wanting business, be prepared for the business. Because by putting it together, it's helping you understand the process a little bit more. And it'll help you answer more questions and handle more objections a little better. There's only so much you're gonna take out of this classroom, right?
so my understanding from your perspective is that if there's a pre-listing. You go there to build a report, to look at the property, to appear the property, but you don't say, you don't do a CMA and you don't give out the price. How do you get to the point where you do that? How do you get to the consultation from a pre-listing?
So
consultation? So
it's
do
setting,
they ask, do you ask them for a second appointment, or do you have anything signed, or how do you get to that?
it's all back to that, setting the expectation, right? So I want you to understand. My intention, my goal, this first appointment is to get a good idea of your property, right, and all the great things. But I want you to be okay with the fact that we're not gonna be able to talk pricing, because I can't give you any accurate pricing without seeing it. Does that make sense? Great, and then while you're there, just like when you go on a blind date, you're trying to figure out, do you want another date or not? Just like they are. That's a reality. It's like, well, I've been on those presentations. And it's awkward or it's painful and you know it's not a good fit, so why are we continuing to have this conversation? Right? So at least that sets you up to figure out, and again, back to that confidence thing, if part of my process is, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you're trying to find the right agent, am I correct? Well, I also need to find the right seller. So this is great, this will be a perfect meeting for us. Figure out what we want to work together, is that okay? Like however you want to craft the conversation.
How long should that take? About 20, 30 minutes? Like when you
Hour.
go to- An hour?
Hour at the most, and that's if you're having a good time. Yeah, but again, those things tell you how motivated they are or aren't. So it's like, that's the hardest part, is there's no black and white answer to it because it's so situational. Yeah, yes, sir.
I have a question, like, once you do, make contact with them for a seller, and they have like a timeline of like a year from now, how often should you communicate with them? Or is it like,
That's completely how you set the tone with that. So, it sounds like you're about a year out, I appreciate that, by the way, or if something changes and it's sooner, what would you do? So, I have a monthly newsletter, is it okay that I send that? Like, it's just getting permission, whatever you have to offer, you're just saying, hey, I want to keep you in the loop on certain things, is it okay? Can I put you in my, whole light database so that you get an update on your property every month, it's valuable. Yeah, nobody says no. The trick is do you follow up or does your system follow? And the more you follow up, the better. Right? Yeah. So, okay, so let's just do this real quick. So we need a listing, but we can't have a listing without a lead. And we really can't get there without that lead turning into a contact, right? So then there's a few things along the way, like you need to know their motivation, you need to know where they're going, that kind of loose end stuff, you need to know more about their property. Once you figure that out, I know the property, I know what it looks like, I'd like to do business with them, they'd like to do business with me, the next step is I'm gonna be more intentional about talking about marketing your home and pricing. Now, if you have, even though we said commission, I highly recommend you never be the first one to say, I'm gonna come talk to you about listing your home and pricing it and my fee. I would not necessarily do that. I would wait till the listing appointment to have that conversation. Now, there's a difference between that, you planting the seed and then asking ahead of time. Well, I don't want you to come over and do the listing presentation unless you tell me what it's gonna cost me. Well, I charge different fees for different clients. As I mentioned before, I don't know how we can help you until I see your property. Is that okay? Well, I need a number. I charge between 2% and 5%. And on top of that, I have a pain in the ass. So, want to be a client that I have to charge a pain in the ass fee to, or do you want to? Right? Finance. And it's just, remember, that's what this is. Like, here's your roadmap. So where are you on the roadmap? And so when you get good at just kind of understanding the next steps, and it takes time and practice, but when you understand the next steps, it's a little easier to have that conversation. And again, the only thing that changes the dynamics of the process is the level of motivation of the seller. Some people are in a hurry, some people might be in pre-foreclosure, some people might have a trust sale. Like, you know, there's just too many situations, but the process is still the same. Pam on her team just has a neighbor friend, and the neighbor goes, "Oh my God, this house has been vacant for 7 years. I don't even know where the owners are." So she sends me the address. I pull up the address. In 2 weeks, there was a trust sale gonna happen. It was in foreclosure. So it was getting ready to go to auction, over $23,000. So she found the sisters that I was just talking about. They're like, oh my God, I forgot we had this property. Dad left it to it. Well, let's get ready to go to auction. But I guarantee you, as much as I love Pam, had she not been on the team, I don't know if she would have known what the next steps are. That's why you guys have to know who your mentors are, your broker, and all those things, because you're gonna run into an opportunity. And you just have to be okay knowing you're not alone, but you still need certain pieces of information, don't you? It doesn't matter. So as long as you get comfortable with that, I think it's easier to have a conversation with the seller. But it sounds like you don't even have your presentation. So I want you to come over tonight and show me your listing presentation. And you're gonna say, oh, I'm busy tonight, I have a date, and, but I can come over tomorrow. You're gonna BS me, I get it. Push it out. But the point I'm trying to make is if you had your presentation together and I said, could you guys come over tonight? You would say,
Yes.
sure, that's the point I'm trying to make. So let's think about knowing the process a little better, but get your presentation together. Because all this stuff's in that presentation. It has flow charts of, hey, if you're a buyer, these are the things that happen. Hey, if you're a seller, these are the things that are happening. If you know Chris Seller, transaction coordinator, she'll give you a checklist too of things, because that's a lot of stuff on here, right? Then I don't even know how many items it is, but there's at least 80.
What do we ask for that?
Chris So is our transaction coordinator.
But this is the listing that I was asking.
This is a listing checklist.
About landing one?
No, it's my wife's checklist.
That's your wife's checklist?
Yeah,
Is it patented? Is it patented?
it's patented. So she would probably get it to you. I just didn't get permission. I could probably send it out. But I know the office has one, and I think you were looking on the hub for one, right?
Yeah, and the hub, there are,
Okay, I would ask Chris so she has the one that's in the front page.
Brandon, just a question, let's say I have a listing agreement, a listing appointment tomorrow.
Okay,
The thing of pricing, whether tomorrow or after 2 days, if I want to take my time to price it. So I go in the cloud, CMA,
yeah,
it gives me that report of 4 comps. And I go in the RPR, it gives the 8. So I take an idea about those and I decide to put between this and this. I'll take into consideration the square with everything. And then I decide, right? No mentor, no nothing, nobody should decide. I mean, I'm not gonna decide the price, I decide the range.
you're deciding,
I
right?
don't need to, no other resource, right?
Yeah.
No mentor,
Well,
no.
back to the, yeah, I mean, you can ask for advice. My question would be this, what if you're wrong? That's
I'm
what
not
I'm
gonna give you the
saying.
price, the range, I decide from those 2 sources, that's it.
If you go to a doctor for a big decision, what does the doctor usually say?
Give a second opinion.
Second opinion.
Of course.
Like, don't have a fear. But I just know from experience that if you are paying attention to it, it sounds like you are, you're always safe in a range.
I wanna be safe. First time I didn't take a listing, I visited to somebody that he wants to sell his land in Menifee. All the prices around that place were 600, 500 something.
Yeah.
And they were even bigger than his house.
Okay,
He wanted 750. And then he changed his mind because his grandsons and daughter, they want to keep the property as memory. They say, yeah, the horse and everything, that place. He didn't sell it, really. I met him in the church. But he said, my property costs 750.
cost.
And I mean, not cost, I mean, the value is 750. I want to sell that much. And
So
and the man just said, if it's too much, don't take it. It's not that I didn't take it, but I was scared that I gave him the wrong price.
yeah, I got you. So he thinks it's worth 750, and what was your range?
I told him that you should put 650 like that,
Okay,
but at the end, it's your call. He said 750, everybody's telling us.
so the best way, my recommendation to handle that is just to say, well, what if it doesn't sell correctly? We have a tendency, we wanna argue and debate it. And the reality is, I would prefer you to not do that. I would recommend that you ask them questions so that they answer their own question. Does that make sense?
So it goes back to like disqualifying the price range, like how you disqualify the potential lead. It has like the same mindset. You disqualify like,
He could get $750 for it. But it might be 10 years from now. That goes back to motivation.
I checked it, it was listed in
Right.
2004, and then it was
Sure.
listed one more time.
So what if you sold it?
This was 2 months ago, not you.
What if he sold it to his kids or his grandkids for $750? And that's what I'm saying, I think when you present it that way, he's answering the question. He's like, okay, like, what,
He's 80 years old.
I understand.
He's not motivated to.
there's no motivation. So if I bring you a contract for $750 tomorrow, would you take it? And if he still says no, then it's not, it's just. Yeah.
But right now,
We are in a business where people constantly ask us for free advice. They constantly bounce things off of us, they constantly are doing all of that stuff, and it's just. And you just, there's no money in that. Right, and that's why, I know Corinne knows this, you probably knows this, I don't know if true, but that's why when someone says, how's the market? I say it's a great question why you ask. I don't go, who gives like. Why do I need to go a 15-minute about why the market's great when they don't even really care? You know what I mean? So that's,
question.
I mean, if I'm a doctor, you just met me at the barbecue and you're telling me some symptoms, what am I gonna tell you? Make an appointment. Come see me, right?
You know,
I don't do proctology exams at the barbecue. I used to, but I don't. Right? So, okay. Again, I think some of the questions you have, or maybe some of the fears you have, are directly tied to just getting comfortable with the process. I really, you got 2 listings. Okay, did you just go through 2 deals?
Did it close today?
Oh, they haven't closed yet.
No,
Okay. You have a duplex?
Talking about Cameron.
No. Oh, maybe it was Karen, it was
Yeah.
Stefan.
Yeah, when that's-
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, what's your deal? Where's your 2 listings? Let's go.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm.
I think once you get your first deal done, you'll start to get a little more comfortable.
And I don't disagree with it, but what our job is to make sure you're getting your first deal,
Yes,
right? Our job is to make sure that there are certain situations where you're gonna meet someone who genuinely cares that you know what you're doing. And we wanna get you in that position to where you feel comfortable enough to know what it is. Is that a lot of the general things we talk about, I'm like super confident you guys get the gist. You get, I need a contract signed, I know you guys know those. But for whatever reason, you're out and about and someone says, man, I want to sell my house, what do I need to do? I need you to be prepared to know what it is to do. And again, don't have a fear of it. Now you gotta just figure out, I don't qualify, I disqualify. Now you gotta disqualify. Right, which means don't go down the same conversation rabbit hole that everybody does with somebody who says they want to sell. Right, just go right for the throat. What would happen if you didn't sell? Throw them for a loop. What happened if you didn't sell? Oh, well, then I would stick around and give it to my kids. Like, I'm figuring out the motivation now. How much effort do I want to put into helping somebody who's really not wanting to help? Okay.
My problem is that I have a serious principle.
What?
I mean,
They're
I
out
have
there.
people, I even met them, connect them with the lender, and then I told them things about the knockout, and I follow up, and, oh, we didn't have time, that means that is.
But how many of those conversations, during those conversations, did you say, if I do all this work for you and nothing happens?
Didn't say that.
That's what I'm saying.
One of them relative, the other one is.
I got it. I get it. But at some point, right, you're gonna have to draw a line in the sand and go, listen, my time is valuable, and as much as I wanna help you. It's important to know where we're gonna go with this.
But I'm sure if I work full-time real estate, I'll do it deal, but
I don't think there, all of you guys. There's plenty of business to go around, it's just, it's the timing is a little, it feels a little. And sometimes you want it to happen sooner, and I get it. I've been doing this a long time, and it's. There's nothing more frustrating, than having to go find it. That's what's frustrating.
Especially when you are used to people finding you.
Yeah. All right, kids, good class. I hope you got something out of it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Brandon. I think I'm here Thursday.
Brandon,
Yeah.
what did you say to